The morning sky over New Sol shone purple and orange as the twin moons of Novus Prime began their slow descent. Director Jin stood at the large window of his office, watching the city wake up. At 52 years old, his hair had more gray than black now. The wrinkles around his eyes had deepened over the years of leading the colony. New Sol was the last human city in the universe. The tall buildings gleamed in the early light. People moved through the streets below, going to work or school. Jin saw children playing in the park, their laughter silent through the thick glass of his window. Jin often thought about Earth during these quiet moments. Earth, the home planet that humans had destroyed 300 years ago. The planet his ancestors had fled on the colony ship Eternal Hope. Now, 17,000 humans lived on Novus Prime. They were all that remained of humanity. The door to his office slid open with a soft hiss. Jin turned to see Hana, the colony's chief scientist, rushing in. Her face was pale and her hands shook as she held her datapad. "Director, we need to talk now," she said, her voice tight with fear. Jin nodded and gestured to the chairs at his desk. "What's wrong, Hana?" Hana placed her datapad on the desk. With a quick movement of her fingers, she sent the information to the large screen on the wall. Colorful charts and numbers filled the screen. "The planet is dying faster than we thought," she said. She pointed to a red line that curved sharply downward. "The core is becoming unstable. The magnetic field is weakening." Jin stared at the charts, his mouth dry. "How long do we have?" Hana adjusted her glasses, a nervous habit she had. 3 months, maybe 4. When the magnetic field fails, radiation from the sun will kill everything on the surface. Jin closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his face was calm, but his hands gripped the edge of his desk tightly. "Can we fix it?" he asked, already knowing the answer. Hana shook her head. "We don't have the technology. We would need to repair the planet's core somehow. We can't do that." "What about evacuation? We have ships." "Not enough," Hana said. "We have 3 colony ships. They can carry maybe 5,000 people together. And where would we go? We've found no other habitable planets within reach." Jin stood up and walked back to the window. The city looked so peaceful. The people below had no idea that their world was dying. "We need to tell them," Jin said. "Yes," Hana agreed. "But what will we tell them to do? We have no solution." Jin thought of his grandmother, who had been one of the original colonists from Earth. She had told him stories of the resource wars, of how Earth had died slowly, poisoned by its own people. The colony on Novus Prime was supposed to be humanity's second chance. "Prepare a report for the council," Jin said. "We'll meet this afternoon. We need to think of something." After Hana left, Jin sat heavily in his chair. He opened the bottom drawer of his desk and pulled out an old metal box. His grandmother had given it to him when he became director. "Only open this if all hope is lost," she had told him. Inside the box was a small data core, a piece of technology from Earth. Jin had never used it before. He placed it on his desk and pressed his thumb to the scanner on its side. The data core hummed to life, projecting a holographic display. "Genetic verification complete," a computerized voice said. "Welcome, Director Jin." The hologram showed a map of Earth. A point of light blinked in what was once a country called Korea. "Project Lazarus," the voice continued. "Final contingency plan for human survival. Status, dormant." Jin leaned forward, his heart beating faster. "What is Project Lazarus?" Project Lazarus is a planetary restoration system located on Earth. It was designed to repair Earth's environment and provide advanced technology for human colonies if needed. Jin couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Earth is dead. It's been uninhabitable for 300 years. "Incorrect," the voice replied. "Earth's recovery has progressed ahead of schedule. Current projections indicate Earth is now habitable, in limited regions. Project Lazarus remains operational and awaiting activation." Jin stood up so quickly that his chair fell backward. "There's technology on Earth that could save us?" Project Lazarus contains technology designed to stabilize planetary cores, shield against radiation, and terraform hostile environments. With proper activation, these systems could be adapted for use on other planets. For the first time that day, Jin felt a small spark of hope. He picked up his communicator. "Captain Tay, come to my office immediately. We need to prepare the scout ship Pathfinder for an urgent mission." 2 hours later, Jin stood in the council chamber. The 7 council members sat in a half-circle, their faces grim as they looked at the data Hana had prepared. "There must be something we can do," said Councillor Kang, the oldest member. "Actually, there might be," Jin said. He placed the data core on the table in front of them. "We need to send a team back to Earth." The room fell silent. Councillor Park, who led the education department, spoke first. "Earth? That's impossible. Earth is dead." "Not according to this," Jin said, activating the data core. The hologram appeared again, showing Earth and the blinking light. "My grandmother gave me this. It's been passed down through every director since the colony began. It contains coordinates and activation codes for something called Project Lazarus on Earth." He explained what the data core had told him. The council listened with growing amazement. "If this is true," Councillor Lee said slowly, "if Earth is habitable and this project exists, it could save us all. Or it could be nothing," Councillor Kang argued. "A 300-year-old hope that leads nowhere. We would waste precious time and resources." Jin nodded. "That's why I've already ordered Captain Tay to prepare the Pathfinder. It's our fastest ship. A small team can reach Earth in 2 weeks, verify if the project exists, and return in time for us to act on what they find." Hana spoke up. "If we wait until the situation is critical, we won't have time to implement any solution they might find. We need to know now." The council voted 6-1 in favor of the mission. As Jin left the council chamber, Captain Tay waited for him in the corridor. She stood straight and tall, her black uniform perfectly pressed. At 43, she was the colony's most experienced ship captain. "The Pathfinder will be ready to launch in 4 hours, she reported. "I've selected a crew of 7. Myself, Navigator Day, Technology Officer Sun, Security Officer Ju, Archaeologist Min, Medical Officer Yu, and Engineer Bei." Jin nodded approval. "You understand how important this mission is?" "Yes, Director. If Earth cannot help us, 17,000 people will die. I won't fail." Jin handed her the data core. "This will guide you to Project Lazarus if it exists. Return as soon as you know whether it can save us." Captain Tay took the data core carefully. "What should I tell the crew about the mission?" Jin looked down the corridor where people walked, unaware that their world was ending. "Tell them the truth. Tell them they're going to find our past to save our future." Later that evening, Jin stood on the observation deck and watched the Pathfinder lift off. The small ship glowed in the light of the setting sun as it rose through the atmosphere. Soon it was just a bright spot in the darkening sky, and then it was gone. Jin stayed there long after the ship disappeared, watching the stars come out. Somewhere out there was Earth, the home humanity had destroyed. Now it was their only hope. "Please," he whispered to the stars, "please let there be something left for us." The scout ship Pathfinder moved silently through the darkness of space. For 13 days it had traveled faster than any human ship had gone in centuries. Now, as it approached the Sol system, the crew gathered on the bridge. Captain Tay stood at the main viewing window. Her dark eyes were fixed on the distant point of light that grew larger with each passing hour. Earth, the birthplace of humanity. The world their ancestors had fled when it became too poisoned to live on. 2 hours until we enter Earth orbit, said Navigator Day from his seat at the controls. He was the youngest crew member at 31, but his skills were unmatched. His fingers moved quickly over the ship's navigation panel. "Any signs of life?" Captain Tay asked. Technology Officer Sun studied the scanning screens. His face was lit by the soft blue glow of the displays. No artificial signals, no radio waves, no light patterns that would suggest cities. He adjusted a dial, and the screen zoomed in. "But there is something strange. The radiation levels are much lower than our records predicted." The crew looked at each other with surprise and hope. "Could the records be wrong?" asked Security Officer Ju. She was always suspicious of unexpected good news. Archaeologist Min shook his head. The records are clear. Earth was dying when our ancestors left. The air was toxic. The water was poisoned. Plants couldn't grow in most places. Then how do you explain this? Sun pointed to his screen. According to these readings, large parts of Earth have clean air, fresh water, and growing plants. Captain Tay turned away from the window. We need to be sure. Prepare. The atmospheric probe. Engineer Bay, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. The probe is ready, Captain. I can launch it as soon as we're in orbit. 2 hours later, the Pathfinder entered Earth's orbit. Through the viewing window, the crew could see the blue planet below them. It was covered with white clouds and vast green areas that could only be forests. The oceans looked clear and blue. It's beautiful, Medical Officer Yu said softly. The old pictures don't do it justice. Engineer Bay launched the probe. They watched the small device as it disappeared into Earth's atmosphere. For 30 minutes, they waited in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the world below them. Finally, the probe sent back its report. Sun read the data with growing amazement. The air is breathable, he announced. It has more oxygen than Novus Prime. The water in the areas we tested is clean. There are plants, animals, even insects. Earth has healed itself. Or something. Helped it heal, Captain Tay said. She held up the data core Director Jin had given her. Let's find out what Project Lazarus is. The Pathfinder landed in a large open area that was once a city called Seoul. As the ship's door opened, the crew stood in the entrance wearing their lightweight environmental suits. They had decided to wear them as a precaution, despite the probe's good report. Captain Tay was the first to step onto Earth's soil. She looked around at the strange landscape. Broken buildings stuck out of the ground like rotting teeth. But between them, trees grew tall and strong. Vines climbed up the old concrete walls. Flowers bloomed in cracks in the ancient roads. It's not what I expected, she said into her suit's communicator. The others joined her outside. They stood, in silence, taking in the sight of humanity's abandoned home. Which way to the Project Lazarus site? Security Officer Ju asked. She kept her hand near her weapon, watching the trees carefully. Just because the probe hadn't detected any large animals didn't mean they weren't there. Sun checked the data. Core's map. According to this, we need to go 3 kilometers that way. He pointed toward a hill where the remains of tall buildings could be seen. The team walked carefully through the overgrown ruins. Birds flew overhead, their calls strange, to ears that had only heard the birds of Novus Prime. Small animals scurried away as the humans approached. The air smelled rich and full of life, even through their suit filters. Look, said archaeologist Min, pointing to a broken wall. Words were still visible on it. Korean Defense Ministry. That's it, Sun said, checking the map again. Project Lazarus should be beneath this building. They found the entrance covered by fallen concrete and thick vines. It took 2 hours of careful work to clear it. When they finally reached the door, they were surprised to find it intact and sealed. How do we open it? Ju asked, examining the door. There were no handles, no visible controls. Sun studied the data core again. It says genetic verification is required. The system is designed to recognize descendants of the original project members. He hesitated, then handed the core to Captain Tay. It should recognize you. Your family name was listed among the project leaders. Captain Tay took off her glove and placed her hand on the scanner next to the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a soft blue light glowed under her palm. Genetic pattern recognized, said a voice in Korean. Surprisingly, they could understand it. The language hadn't changed much in 300 years. Welcome, descendant of Tae Jun-ho. Project Lazarus awaiting activation. The heavy door slid, open with a groan of metal that hadn't moved in centuries. Beyond it lay a dark corridor leading down into the earth. Lights, ordered Captain Tay. Everyone activated the lights on their suits. The beams cut through the darkness, revealing a metal hallway that seemed untouched by time. How is this possible? Min whispered. Nothing should have survived this long without maintenance. They moved slowly down the corridor. As they walked, lights began to turn on ahead of them, as if the facility was waking up after a long sleep. The corridor ended at another door. This one opened as they approached. Beyond it was a room so large that their lights couldn't reach the far walls. But they didn't need their lights anymore. The room was lighting itself section by section. "This is impossible," Engineer Bay said, staring at the massive machines that filled the room. "This technology, we don't have anything like this on Novus Prime." The center of the room held a raised platform with a control console. As Captain Tay approached it, the console lit up. A holographic display appeared above it, showing planet Earth. "Welcome to Project Lazarus," said the same voice they had heard at the entrance. "Please state nature of emergency." Captain Tay looked at her crew, then back at the hologram. "Our colony on Novus Prime is dying. The planet's core is becoming unstable. We need help to save our people." The hologram changed, showing data flowing across it too fast to read. Then it spoke again. Analyzing. Planetary core stabilization. Technology is available, adapting for Novus Prime specifications. The room hummed with power as more systems came online. Lights flashed on massive machines around them. "What is this place?" Medical Officer Yu asked, looking around in wonder. "It appears to be some kind of Ark," Sun said, reading information from a nearby console. "A repository of Earth's most advanced technology, preserved for future generations." "But why didn't our ancestors use this to save Earth?" Navigator Day asked. Min, who had been examining ancient records on another console, looked up. "According to this, they tried. Project Lazarus was meant to repair Earth's environment, but it wasn't completed. Before the final evacuation, they left it running on automated systems, hoping it would finish its work. And it did," Captain Tay said, understanding now. "It healed Earth while we were gone." The main hologram changed again, showing technical designs for machines they had never seen before. "Core stabilization technology ready for transfer," the system announced. "Warning, unknown vessels approaching Sol system. Estimated arrival, 14 days. The crew looked at each other in alarm. "What vessels?" Captain Tay demanded. "Are there other human colonies?" "Negative," replied the system. "Vessels are not of human origin. Pattern suggests intelligent non-human life forms." The crew stood in stunned silence. They had come to Earth seeking technology to save their dying colony. Instead, they had found not only what they needed, but the knowledge that humanity was not alone in the universe. "We need to get this technology back to Novus Prime immediately," Captain Tay said, breaking the silence. "And we need to prepare Earth for our return. We're going to need both worlds now." As if in response, more lights came on throughout the vast underground complex, revealing rows of dormant machines waiting to be awakened. "Project Lazarus, fully operational," the system announced. "Ready to implement planetary defense protocols and colony establishment procedures." Captain Tay looked at her crew. Their faces showed a mixture of fear and hope. "Humanity is coming home," she said, "and we need to make sure it's ready for us." The central chamber of Project Lazarus hummed with power. Lights blinked on machines that had waited centuries to fulfill their purpose. Captain Tay and her crew moved around the vast room, each studying different parts of the ancient technology. Officer Sun stood at the main console, his fingers moving quickly over controls that somehow felt familiar to him. Information flowed across multiple screens, showing him secrets that humanity had forgotten. "This is amazing," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "These systems are at least 500 years ahead of what we have on Novus Prime. The power source alone is something I've only seen in theoretical papers." Engineer Bay examined a large machine in the corner of the room. It was shaped like a cylinder and glowed with soft blue light. "This seems to be the core of a planetary stabilizer," she said. "It's designed to strengthen magnetic fields and repair damage to a planet's interior. This could save Novus Prime." Captain Tay nodded. "Good. How quickly can we transport it to the ship?" Bay looked troubled. "That's the problem. It's too big for the Pathfinder. Even if we took it apart, we couldn't fit all the essential components. We don't need to move the actual machines, Sun called from the console. The system is offering to transfer the designs and operating instructions. We can build what we need on Novus Prime with these plans. Medical Officer Yu, who had been examining a different section of the facility, joined them. Captain, you should see this, she said. There's an entire medical database here with cures for diseases we still struggle with on the colony. Archaeologist Min looked up from an ancient text display. According to these records, Project Lazarus wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about preserving all of humanity's knowledge and technology. When Earth was dying, the world's greatest minds worked together to create this time capsule. Captain Tay walked to the center of the control platform. System, she called out. How long will it take to transfer the core stabilization technology to our ship? The holographic display changed to show a progress bar. Full technical specifications and construction protocols can be transferred in 2 hours, the system replied. Begin transfer, she ordered. Then she turned to her crew. We need to learn as much as we can while we're here. Navigator Day, work with Officer Sun to download navigation charts and any information about these alien vessels approaching our system. Officer Ju, search for defensive capabilities we might use. Everyone else, gather what you can from your areas of expertise. Crews spread out through the facility, each searching for knowledge that could help their dying colony. As they worked, more of the ancient complex came to life around them. In a lower level of the facility, Security Officer Ju found a sealed door marked with warning symbols. After reporting to Captain Tay, she received permission to open it. Inside was a large chamber filled with rows of metal cylinders, each about the size of a human. Captain, she called over her communicator. I think you need to see this. When Captain Tay arrived, she stared at the cylinders with wide eyes. What are they? Before Ju could answer, the system's voice spoke. Guardian units detected, activation protocols available. Sun, who had come with the captain, moved to a nearby console. These appear to be some kind of defensive drones, he said, reading the information. But they're advanced. Biomechanical, systems designed to protect Project Lazarus and assist with rebuilding efforts. Guardians, Ju read from another screen. They were meant to rebuild infrastructure once Earth was habitable again. Captain Tay walked among the rows of silent cylinders. Can they be activated? Yes, Sun replied. The system says they've been in a dormant state, waiting for human return triggers. They can be awakened to help prepare Earth for recolonization. Captain Tay thought for a moment. With alien vessels approaching and their colony in danger, they needed every advantage. Activate one, she ordered. Let's see what we're dealing with. Sun input the commands and lights began to flash on one of the cylinders. Steam hissed from seals that had been tight for centuries. The front panel of the cylinder slid open. Inside was a humanoid figure, its body a seamless blend of metal and something like synthetic flesh. Its eyes were closed as if it were sleeping. Then slowly those eyes opened. They glowed a soft blue, the same color as the lights throughout the facility. The Guardian stepped forward out of its cylinder. It was tall, nearly 2 meters in height, with a body that looked both powerful and graceful. Its face had human features, but was clearly not human. Guardian Unit K-12 active, it said in a voice that sounded almost natural. Awaiting instructions. Captain Tay stepped forward. I am Captain Tay of the human colony on Novus Prime. We've returned to Earth to seek help for our colony, and have reactivated Project Lazarus. The Guardian's head tilted slightly as it processed this information. Welcome home, descendants, it said. Project Lazarus has maintained Earth in preparation for human return. My purpose is to assist in re-establishment of human presence on Earth. Can you tell us about the vessels approaching this system? Ju asked. The Guardian turned. To her, multiple species have monitored Earth since human departure. Some observe only. Others have attempted to claim territory but were repelled by automated defense systems. Current approaching vessels include both allied and potentially hostile entities. This was shocking news to the humans. Not only were they not alone in the universe, but aliens had been watching Earth for centuries. Allied? Captain Tay asked. Earth has allies among these aliens? Affirmative, the Guardian replied. 3 species established peaceful contact with Earth before the final evacuation. They promised to respect human territory and await possible return. Others have shown hostile intent. Captain Tay turned to Sun. Is the technology transfer complete? Sun checked his data pad. 57% complete. 1 more hour. Good. She turned back to the Guardian. We need to prepare defenses in case these hostile vessels arrive before we can return with more ships from our colony. The Earth Defense Network can be reactivated, the Guardian said. It has remained in standby mode. Full activation requires human authorization. Captain Tay nodded. Show me. The Guardian led them to another section of the facility where a large holographic display showed Earth and the surrounding space. Points of light indicated defense platforms in orbit and ground-based weapon systems. Earth was well defended, the Guardian explained. When humans left, the defense network was set to minimal function to preserve power. It can be restored to full capacity within 3 days. As they studied the defense systems, Navigator Day's voice came over the communicator. Captain, I've found something important in the navigation archives. There's a faster route back to Novus Prime than the one we used to get here. We can cut our return journey to 8 days instead of 13. Excellent work, Captain Tay replied. We need to get the core stabilization technology back to the colony as quickly as possible. Captain, said archaeologist Min, who had been quiet during the Guardian's activation. I've been thinking we can't all go back. Someone needs to stay here to activate these defenses and prepare Earth for our return. Captain Tay looked at her crew. They had come to Earth seeking a way to save their colony. They had found so much more. A healed Earth waiting for humanity's return, advanced technology beyond their dreams, and the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. You're right, she said finally. We need to split up. Half the crew will return to Novus Prime with the stabilization technology. The rest will stay here to activate the defenses and prepare for colonization. Security Officer Ju stepped forward. I'll stay, she said. My job is to protect our people, and right now that means securing Earth for our return. Archaeologist Min nodded. I'll stay too. My knowledge of our history will help with the recolonization plans. Engineer Bay also volunteered to remain on Earth. I can work with the Guardians to repair the old infrastructure. We'll need housing and food production for when our people arrive. Captain Tay looked at those who would stay behind. You understand the risk? If something happens to the Pathfinder on its return journey, you could be stranded here. We understand, Ju said firmly. But Earth is our home too. It's where we came from. Someone needs to make it ready for our return. Captain Tay nodded. Then it's decided. Sun, Day, you and I will return to Novus Prime with the technology. Ju, Min, and Bay will remain here to prepare Earth and activate the defenses. As the technology transfer completed, the crew gathered one last time in the central chamber. Those staying behind had been given access to all of Project Lazarus's systems and had awakened 10 more Guardians to help them. We'll come back for you, Captain Tay promised, with ships to bring our people home. Ju smiled. We'll be ready. Earth will be waiting for humanity's return. As the Pathfinder lifted off from Earth's surface, Captain Tay watched the blue and green planet grow, smaller beneath them. Humanity had abandoned Earth once when it was dying. Now they would return to a world that had healed itself and waited patiently for its children to come home. The ship turned toward the stars and accelerated. They had 8 days to reach Novus Prime and save their colony. And when they did, humanity would have 2 homes in the universe once again. Security Officer Ju stood on a hill overlooking what was once the city of Seoul. The morning sun shone on ruins covered in green plants. Birds flew between broken buildings. It had been 3 days since the Pathfinder left for Novus Prime. Beside her stood Guardian K-12, its metal and synthetic body gleaming in the sunlight. 9 other Guardians worked in the valley below, clearing paths and setting up equipment they had brought from the underground facility. "It's strange," Ju said. "My ancestors lived here. They built those towers, walked those streets. Now it's all just memories." "Not just memories," the Guardian said. "The foundations remain. We can rebuild." In the 3 days since Captain Tay left, Ju and her team had learned much about the Guardians. They were more than just machines. They could think, learn, and even show something like emotions. They had watched over Earth for 300 years, protecting it while it healed. "Guardian," Ju asked, "why didn't you contact our colony? If Earth was becoming habitable again, why not tell us?" "We had no way to send signals across such distances," the Guardian explained. "And our programming required human authorization to make first contact. We could only wait and hope humans would return." Archaeologist Min joined them on the hill. He carried an ancient datapad showing maps of the old city. "The Guardians have been showing me their work," he said excitedly. "For centuries, they've been cleaning rivers, planting forests, and removing toxic materials. They've been healing Earth for us." Ju looked at the Guardian with new respect. "You've been waiting all this time, just doing your job with no humans to help or guide you." "It is our purpose," the Guardian said simply. A beeping sound came from Ju's communicator. She activated it and heard Engineer Bay's voice. "Ju Min, you need to come to the command center. The defense system has detected something." They hurried back to the Project Lazarus facility. In the central chamber, Bay stood before the large holographic display of Earth and its surroundings. Several red dots were visible moving toward Earth. "The alien ships have changed course," Bay said. "They're heading directly for Earth, and they're moving faster now. They'll be here in 4 days." "That's sooner than we expected," Ju said with a frown. "Are the defense systems ready?" "Partially," Bay replied. "We've activated the orbital platforms, but many of the ground-based systems still need work." The Guardian stepped forward. "With your permission, we can activate all remaining Guardian units to help prepare defenses." "How many are there?" Min asked. 127 units remain in storage," the Guardian replied. "They were meant to form the workforce for rebuilding Earth." Ju made a quick decision. "Wake them all. We need every advantage if those ships are hostile." On Novus Prime, Director Jin stood in the colony's main square. A large crowd had gathered to hear his announcement. Tremors shook the ground every few hours now. The planet's core was becoming more unstable every day. "Yesterday, the scout ship Pathfinder returned from Earth," Jin said, his voice carried by speakers throughout the colony. "Captain Tay and her crew have brought us hope." He gestured to Captain Tay, who stood beside him along with Technology Officer Sun and the rest of the returning crew. "Earth is alive," Jin continued. "The home our ancestors left has healed itself, and they have brought back technology that can save Novus Prime." A murmur ran through the crowd. For many, Earth was just a story, a myth from long ago. Now they were being told it was real and waiting for them. "We have already begun building the core stabilizers," Jin said. "With the help of Project Lazarus technology, we can save our colony. But we must work quickly." Later in the colony's main workshop, engineers studied the plans for the core stabilizers. The technology was like nothing they had seen before. Energy sources that drew power from the planet itself. Materials that could withstand the heat and pressure at the core's boundary. "Can we build this in time?" Jin asked Chief Scientist Hana. She looked tired but determined. "Yes, but we'll need everyone working together. And we'll need to place the stabilizers at specific points around the planet. It will be dangerous." Technology Officer Sun pointed to a complex part of the design. "This is the control system. It will coordinate all stabilizers to work as one network. Once activated, it should strengthen the magnetic field immediately. The core repairs will take longer, but we'll be safe from radiation." Jin nodded. "Get everything you need. Every resource in the colony is at your disposal." As they left the workshop, Captain Tay walked with Jin. "There's something else you should know," she said quietly. "Earth isn't empty. There are signs that alien species have been watching it." Jin stopped walking. "Aliens? Are you certain?" "Yes. and some may be coming to Earth now. The team we left behind is preparing defenses. But if Earth is threatened, we may need to help defend it. Jin closed his eyes for a moment. One crisis at a time, Captain. First, we save our colony. Then we help save Earth. Back on Earth, the awakened Guardians worked with incredible speed and efficiency. They spread out across the old Korean peninsula, activating defense installations hidden in mountains and underneath lakes. Ju and Min studied the alien ships approaching Earth. The defense system identified 3 different types. According to the Guardian records, these 2 ship designs belong to friendly species, Min said, pointing to blue dots on the screen. But this group here, the red dots, they're identified as the Racks. They attempted to land on Earth 50 years ago but were driven off by automated defenses. And now they're back, Ju said grimly. With a bigger fleet, Guardian K-12 joined them at the display. The Racks are resource gatherers. They strip planets of valuable materials. They would have taken Earth's metals and minerals if we had not stopped them before. Why come back now? Bay asked. They must have detected our ship, Ju realized. They know humans have returned to Earth. The Guardian nodded. Human return was predicted to trigger interest from other species. Project Lazarus prepared for this with the defense network. Over the next 2 days, the Guardians activated more of Earth's hidden defenses. Massive guns rose from mountain peaks. Shield generators powered up in old bunkers. In orbit, satellites changed position, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden for centuries. On the 3rd day, the ships from the friendly species arrived first. They took positions near Earth but did not approach closely. Signals came in languages the humans couldn't understand, but the Guardians could. They welcome humanity's return, Guardian K-12 translated. They honor old agreements to respect Earth as human territory. They also warn about the Racks fleet approaching. They offer assistance if needed. Tell them we thank them for honoring the agreements, Ju said. But we will handle the Racks ourselves. Earth will show that it can defend itself. The Racks fleet arrived the next day, 20 ships of different sizes. They moved into Earth orbit, ignoring warnings sent by the defense system. They're scanning the surface, Bay reported from her console. Looking for resources, probably. All defense systems are ready, Min said. Waiting for your command. Ju took a deep breath. She had trained to protect the colony on Novus Prime. Now she was defending Earth itself. Send the final warning. If they don't withdraw, activate defenses. The warning was sent. The Racks ignored it. 3 of their ships began to descend toward the atmosphere. They're targeting major resource deposits, Guardian K-12 said. Old mining areas in what was once called Australia, Africa, and South America. Ju nodded grimly. Activate defenses. Target the ships entering the atmosphere first. Around the world, Earth's long-dormant weapons came to life. Beams of energy shot up from ground installations. Orbital platforms fired at the Racks ships from above. The first 3 ships attempting to land were hit immediately. 2 exploded in bright flashes that lit up the sky. The 3rd spun out of control and crashed into the ocean. The remaining Racks ships began to fire back. Energy weapons struck at Earth's surface, but shield generators activated just in time, protecting the areas beneath them. They're targeting the defense installations, Min said, watching the display. They know exactly where to hit. They must have mapped our defenses during their previous attempt, the Guardian said. One by one, defense installations were hit. Shields failed under repeated attacks. But the Guardians worked quickly, rerouting power and activating backup systems. We're losing too many defenses, Bay said after an hour of battle. At this rate, they'll break through. Ju looked at the display, thinking hard. Then she noticed something. The orbital platforms, they're networked together, right? Can we link them to form a single weapon? Guardian K-12 considered this. Yes. Project Lazarus included an emergency protocol for combining orbital assets. It has never been tested. Test it now, Ju ordered. Target their command ship. The Guardian worked quickly at the console. The display showed Earth's orbital platforms moving, aligning themselves. Energy began to flow between them. Linked system at 80% capacity, the Guardian reported. Ready to fire. Fire, Ju commanded. A massive beam of energy formed between the platforms, then shot out toward the largest rack ship. When it hit, the ship didn't just explode. It disintegrated. The remaining rack ships immediately began to retreat. Within minutes, they had left Earth orbit and were moving away. At high speed, they're gone. The sky above New Sol was clear and blue on the day the first tremor stopped. For months, the people of the colony had grown used to the ground shaking several times a day. But on this day, when the usual time for a tremor passed with no movement, people stopped in the streets and looked at each other with hope in their eyes. In the control center, Chief Scientist Hannah studied the readings with tired but happy eyes. She had not slept properly for days as she led the team installing the core stabilizers around the planet. "Director," she called to Jin, who stood nearby watching the main screen. "The magnetic field is strengthening. Look at these readings." Jin moved to her side. On her screen, a line that had been dropping steadily for months was now moving upward. The numbers beside it showed the strength of Novus Prime's magnetic field. "It's working," he said softly. "The stabilizers are working." Around them, the control center staff began to cheer. Some hugged each other, others wiped tears from their eyes. For the first time in months, they could believe they might survive. Jin raised his hands for quiet. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The core is still unstable. We need to keep working." Hannah nodded. "The stabilizers need time to repair the damage, but the immediate danger is passing. The radiation levels will start to drop now that the magnetic field is stronger." Jin walked to the large window overlooking the city. People were gathering in the streets looking up at the clear sky. They didn't know yet what had happened, but somehow they could sense the change. "Tell them," he said to his communications officer. "Tell the colony that we're going to live." 2 weeks later, the first colony ship prepared for launch. The New Beginning was the largest ship in the colony fleet, capable of carrying 2,000 people. It sat on the launching pad, gleaming in the morning sun as people lined up to board. Director Jin stood with Captain Tae, watching the boarding process. "Are you sure you won't come with this first group?" he asked her. Tae shook her head. "My place is on the Pathfinder. We'll lead the way and make sure Earth is ready when the colony ships arrive." Jin nodded. He understood. Tae had seen Earth. She had bonded with it in a way that he hadn't yet. "How many ships can Earth support now?" "Security Officer Ju reports that they've prepared housing for the first 5,000 colonists," Tae replied. "The Guardians have been working non-stop to rebuild basic infrastructure in what was once Sol. More areas will be ready soon." "And the aliens?" "The friendly species have established communication links. They're staying in orbit, keeping watch. No sign of the racks returning, but Earth's defenses remain active just in case." Jin looked at the crowds of people boarding the ship. Some looked excited, others scared. Earth was a new world to them, even though it was humanity's original home. "We'll send ships in waves," Jin decided. 5,000 now, then more as Earth is ready to receive them. Some will need to stay here to maintain the stabilizers until Novus Prime is fully healed, Tae agreed. "We'll become a two-planet species again, more resilient that way." As the New Beginning prepared for launch, Jin addressed the colony one last time. His voice was carried to every home, every workspace. "Today, we begin our return to Earth," he said. "Our ancestors left Earth when it was dying, carrying the hope of humanity to the stars. They found Novus Prime and built our colony, allowing humanity to survive. Now Earth calls us home again. Not to abandon this world we've made, but to expand, to grow, to become stronger. Humanity will live on 2 worlds now, and soon, perhaps, more. We faced extinction, but we have survived. We will always survive." The people of Novus Prime watched as the New Beginning rose into the sky, followed by 2 smaller ships. Captain Tae's Pathfinder led the way, guiding them on the faster route to Earth that Navigator Day had discovered. On Earth, Security Officer Ju stood with archaeologist Min and Engineer Bae on the same hill where they had first surveyed Sol's ruins. Now the view was very different. The Guardians had cleared large areas, set up temporary housing units, and even planted fields of fast-growing crops. "Hard to believe it's only been a month," Min said, looking at the transformation below. "The Guardians are incredible workers, Bay replied. They don't need rest, and they were built for exactly this purpose. Ju's communicator beeped. It was a message from Guardian K-12, who was monitoring the defense systems. The ships from Novus Prime have entered Earth orbit, the Guardian reported. The Pathfinder is requesting landing coordinates. Ju smiled. Guide them to landing zone 1. We'll meet them there. The 3 humans made their way to the large flat area the Guardians had prepared as a landing zone. It had once been a park in the center of Seoul. Now it was cleared and reinforced to handle the weight of large ships. Daddy, Pathfinder landed first. Captain Tay emerged, smiling when she saw her teammates waiting. You've been busy, she said, looking around at the changes. The Guardians did most of the work, Ju replied. We just told them what humans would need. They watched as the new beginning descended slowly, its massive hull gleaming in the sunlight. It touched down gently on the landing pad, and for a moment everything was still. Then the main door opened and people began to walk out onto Earth's soil. The first was an old woman helped by a younger man. She took a few steps, then knelt and pressed her hand to the ground. Tears streamed down her face. My grandmother, Captain Tay explained quietly. She was born on the colony ship that first brought us to Novus Prime. She's the last living person who had parents born on Earth. She wanted to be the first to return. More people emerged from the ship, looking around with wide eyes at the blue sky, the green plants, the ruins of the ancient city. Children ran and laughed, feeling Earth's slightly stronger gravity as they jumped and played. Guardian K-12 approached, the group of officers. The other ships are preparing to land. The first human city section is ready for occupation. Thank you, Ju said, for everything you and the other Guardians have done. Without you, Earth wouldn't be ready for our return. The Guardian tilted its head. It has been our purpose and our honor to serve. For 300 years we have waited for this day. As the day went on, more ships landed, bringing more colonists from Novus Prime. The friendly alien ships remained, in orbit, observing but not interfering. Earth's defense systems stood ready, protecting the returning humans. 6 months later, Director Jin finally made the journey to Earth. He stood in what was now called New Seoul City, looking at the mix of old and new. Ancient ruined buildings stood next to new structures. In some places, the ruins had been rebuilt using the original foundations. 20,000 humans now lived on Earth. More arrived each month as new areas were prepared. Novus Prime was healing well, its core growing more stable each day. The 2 human worlds communicated constantly, sharing resources and knowledge. Jin walked with Captain Tay through a garden that had been planted near the landing zone. Earth plants grew alongside species from Novus Prime, creating new combinations of colors and shapes. We should have died, Jin said quietly. Our colony was facing extinction, but our ancestors left us a way home, even though they couldn't return themselves. Tay nodded. They had hope. They believed humanity would continue even if they wouldn't see it. And now the aliens know we're back, Jin said. We're not alone in the universe anymore. We never were, Tay replied. But now we're strong enough to take our place among the stars. They stopped at a small monument that had been built in the center of the garden. It was simple. A piece of metal from the Eternal Hope, the ship that had carried humanity from Earth to Novus Prime 300 years ago. Beside it was a piece of rock from Novus Prime, brought back on the first colony ship. The plaque below them read, 2 worlds, 1 humanity. We remember where we came from, and we look forward to where we will go. Far above, in orbit around Earth, the alien observation ships were joined by a new arrival, an official diplomatic vessel. The message they sent was being translated by the Guardians. To the humans of Earth and Novus Prime, welcome back to the galactic community. You have proven your resilience and your right to exist among the stars. We look forward to peaceful exchange of knowledge and culture. Humanity had faced extinction twice, once on Earth, once on Novus Prime. Both times they had survived through a combination of technology, determination, and hope. Now, with 2 worlds and new allies among the stars, The future looked brighter than it had in centuries. As night fell on New Sol City, lights came on in homes and buildings. From orbit, these lights formed a pattern that spread slowly across the planet, humanity reclaiming its first home while maintaining its second. No longer one vulnerable colony, but a two-world civilization taking its first steps into a much larger universe. Earth's ancient devices had awakened just in time, not just to save humanity from extinction, but to help it thrive once more. ND